And we're going straight to Nigeria, where the senator representing Bayelsa in the south of the country, Bayelsa West to be more precise, Senator Seriake Dickson, who's the former governor of the state, by the way, has addressed the media on the two contentious issues bordering on the passage of the 3% equity shareholding for communities in the petroleum industry bill, which they disagreed with on the contentious clause called the 52 subsection 3 in the 2021 Electoral Act Amendment Bill that was recently, though, passed by the National Assembly.
Now, the senator called for a review of the 3% equity upwards to the 5% proposed by the Joint Committee on Petroleum before Buhari acceds to it, as it may trigger yet another round of insecurity in the Niger Delta. He also cautioned the National Assembly over the takeover of INEC powers on electoral result transmission. Now, to help us dissect all of this, especially when it concerns what the senator has brought up, and also about the importance of PIB to Nigerians, we have Desmond Agboifo, who happens to be a petroleum expert and director, Destinturn Energy International. Good morning, Desmond. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. All right, Desmond, if you can just unmute so we can hear you clearly.
Oh, okay. Good morning. Good morning. I hope you can hear me clearly now.
All right. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning.
All right, Desmond, welcome to the program. Now, the passage of the PIB bill comes exactly 13 years after it was, first presented to the National Assembly back in 2008. Now, let's get your thoughts on this bill, first of all, and what it stands for to achieve, especially for Nigerians.
I think the bill came at a very good time, to be honest. I mean, maybe once again, kudos to the House of Assembly and of course the presidency also, of course, to have been able to enable this come to this level of traction. I mean, I was just going through a bit of memory lane, and I noticed that the bill has been up for 13 years, and then so thankfully it's been now passed and now in the House. I know there are issues about the percentages of host development funds and frontier development fund, issues like that. But be that as it may, I think it's also a welcome development. We are happy that there's also a progress in that regard.
Right. Now, Desmond, I mean, look, over 20 years since it was conceived and 13 years after it was presented to National Assembly, we are now accepting it, although some amendments have been made. But now let's look at the concerns of Senator Dickson regarding the 3% the bill is proposing for the host community. Now, looking at the host community, also, we've had a lot of spillage in the past, but, are his concerns really valid? 3% or 5%? Hello, Desmond, can you hear us? Right. I think we have just lost Desmond, but one of the main questions a lot of people are coming to talk about in terms of the PIB, the amended PIB, is the sharing formula for the host community. Now, initially, it was proposed that 5% should have been adopted, but what the senators and the lawmakers are passing is 3%. Now, 3% might look quite small, but if you're converting it to Naira and Kobo, in some cases, the host community might get as high as $450 million or Naira, as it were, depending on the scenario. But is that even enough?
Yeah, that's the big question, especially for people who come from this, Niger Delta host communities, from Bayelsa to Delta to also to Rivers, and you ask yourself how much consultations were done with the people before it got to that level it got to. Because I remember when the bill was passed, that there was a lot of angst, and maybe that's why people like Seriake Dickson coming out to say, look, we have to get this under review again, so we don't go into another problem in the Niger Delta where we had violence and kidnapping and whatever. I think it was the last administration where amnesty then came in, because you look back 10, 12 years ago in the Niger Delta area, these host communities, it was all about kidnapping and emancipation and militancy, as that word, which was a trending word at the time. And
also in the amended PIB, I like to call it amended because it's quite, some of the clauses are quite different from what was proposed some 13 years back when it was first introduced to the National Assembly. Now, a part of the funds or the money that will be raised from the host community will be taken to other parts of Nigeria for exploration. Now, northern part of Nigeria is going to benefit from this as well, and the percentage we're talking about is over 10% of the money that will be raised from the exploration in Niger Delta region. A lot of people, Nigerians and a lot of people in diaspora are asking questions. Why do we need to take so much? And yes, we're giving the host community as little as single-digit percentage, but you're taking double digits to other communities in the name of exploration?
Yeah, that's the big question, especially when it comes to the PIB bills. And many Nigerians are sharing their thoughts on it. You can still share your thoughts on that too with us right here at News Central TV on our social media platforms. We were just speaking to a petroleum industry expert on the program live via Zoom, and he also talked about the 13 years that it took, though it was first presented 20 years ago. So if it takes this long, why don't we get it right once and for all, and still not have to go back to the questions about 3%, 5%, 10%, or somebody getting 30% somewhere up north.
And let's not forget, what's the bill saying about oil spillage? Because a lot of these host communities are suffering decades of exploration that has happened in some of these host communities. In Niger Delta, there are some places where fishermen have lost their jobs. I mean, oil spillage has caused deaths of animals, sea animals, and this has made a lot of the people who have that vocation jobless. And you're wondering why we have high crime rates and you have kidnappings of expatriates in this region. It's just a call out to the government or to the host communities. Even the leaders in some of these host communities, from alleged information that we've received, they do not trickle this money down to the grassroots, the people who should benefit from the money that the oil companies is giving to some of the host communities. All
right, so perhaps some valid concerns expressed by Senator Seriake Dickson out there in Bayelsa. Still more top stories right here on Breakfast Central.
The world knows, these host communities knows, that at the beginning of this bill, what was proposed was 10% for them. And no one is engaging them. No one is explaining anything to them. All they have seen is that people who say they have majority votes have imposed a 3% on them, and they're angry. This country is not helping itself. This country is not even helping investors. This country is not helping host communities by not creating the enabling environment that will enable investments to thrive. The argument is that, oh, anything more than 3%, investors will not come. And so what? If the host communities are not happy, will investors come? If the host communities do not have a stake in oil exploration and exploitation activities, the investors that they are trying to bring will not only come, those who come by whatever means, once they find that the situation is not conducive, they will take off.